I'm Lisa Dahl, health and well-being coach. Welcome to Getting Healthy Without Rules. This show is about understanding the things that impact your wellness and finding ways to improve it. In this show, we take a non-diet, no-rules approach to health and wellness. Health and wellness is a moving target. We all have different needs and opportunities to improve it. This approach allows you to make the best choice with the information that you have right now. It helps you to be present, flexible, and resilient. In addition, I support you in moving from judgment to curiosity and offering yourself self-compassion. It is time we are all a little kinder to ourselves. Imagine having the skills to shift away from negative self-talk, trust your intuition, and eliminate the anxiety related to relationships with food, people, body image, and diet issues. When I speak with clients, they often say things such as, I feel out of control with my food, I can't trust myself, and I live with constant guilt and shame, and it's supported by the nasty voices they hear in their head. They believe food is the issue. I help them understand that food is often the messenger of unmet needs. My guest today shares that health and wellness heal first through the mind, and all else resolves once you tap into the subconscious. Our thought patterns and inner dialogue profoundly affect our physical and mental health. The mind's power to regulate behavior and cultivate well-being is often left untapped. There is a deep connection between the conscious and subconscious mind, and meditation and self-talk training can help us overcome some of the biggest obstacles to living healthier, more positive lives. These tools and techniques are available for anyone to learn and use to become more intuitive, integrate mind-body wellness, and tune out the noisy distractions of our quick fix culture. If you are ready to unlock your inner capacity for holistic healing and reach your full human potential, this insightful discussion will reveal how changing our mental patterns can transform our lives on a foundational level. I hope you find inspiration in embracing self-trust and our mind's incredible strength. Today's episode is about meditation and self-talk training to overcome obstacles, integrate mind-body wellness, and transform our lives on a foundational level. We will explore the power of the subconscious mind, training positive self-talk, overcoming cultural obstacles, and how to approach wellness through a holistic health approach, emphasizing the mind-body connection. Be sure to stay until the end for this week's healthy practice. I am excited to introduce today's expert guest, Kaye Chryssicas. Kaye, I don't know if I just butchered her name, so she will correct it. Chryssicas. She only told me 5 times before we started, and I still got it wrong. And anyway, I am super excited to introduce Kaye, who is an accomplished author of several award-winning wellness lifestyle books, an internationally recognized yoga teacher, life coach, and mindfulness and meditation expert. Kaye published 3 successful titles with DK Publishing, I Love Yoga, Breathe, and Yoga for Teens, which were translated into 9 other languages. These titles won the prestigious Adult Library Association Award for Reluctant Readers and the Parents' Choice Award. Kaye is the creator and host of Kaye's Positivity Podcast, which highlights strategies to lessen anxiety and interview top experts who can help. It ranks in the top 2.5% of all podcasts produced in America. And I'm excited to say that I was recently a guest on Kaye's podcast, and the link will be in the show notes so that you can listen to her area of expertise as being a host. Kaye, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell me, what led you to believe that health and wellness start in the mind?
Well, everyone approaches life differently. And I was fortunate that I just came out glasses half full. So when I walked in a room, I just assumed everyone wanted to be my best friend. And it never even crossed my mind that someone wouldn't like me. And because of that, I had a lot of opportunities come my way, and I had a lot of friends, and things came easily. But I had a friend that would walk into that same room and say, oh, she doesn't like me, or he spread a rumor about me, or she might misinterpret body language. Like someone had their arms crossed and she would say, oh, they don't want to talk to me. And I thought that as time progressed, like it was like a little black cloud was following her, and she would have a lot of disappointments that would shatter her, and she would assume things that weren't true, and I would say that they don't feel that way. And so I just found that it was hard to really lift her up because she was in this cycle. It was much like Eeyore, that just can't see past the last interaction they had. And so as I got older and was working with young people, I saw how we could retrain the brain to focus on what's going well and focus on how many people want to be your friend. I mean, they always say that women will go into a room and there'll be 10 women there and 9 of them will love them. And they'll focus on the one that hates them for whatever reason. And so I thought, if there was a way that I could reach young people early and retrain that brain, then we could all benefit from having these positive interactions and opportunities come our way. So that's how my work started. I really thought maybe I could reach that young girl that, just for whatever reason, it could have been an event in her life that shifted her mindset, or it could have been the way you were born. But I do believe we all have the capacity to retrain our brain. And I think what people don't realize is that thoughts become things. And so when you are in that mindset where it's a negative rumination, like replaying over and over, the brain memorizes that emotion that you feel and that pattern. And you won't break the cycle unless you start to learn the skills to change it, because it's addicted to that feeling. It only knows how to feel anxious. So you can retrain it to think positively and feel happy just as easily. But people, I don't think, realize that.
People don't understand that we have a choice and it takes work, and we can shift our thoughts.
Right.
So can you explain what you mean by tapping into the subconscious? What role does the subconscious play in our well-being?
Okay, so the subconscious, I look at it this way. So let's say you're shy and your mother says to you, oh, go on and say hi to her, or speak up, or smile, or, they're trying to encourage you to put yourself out there, right? So she's talking to the conscious mind. So it goes right out your other ear. You're like, just ignore your parents' advice, right?
It's noise.
Yeah, it's just noise. So tapping into the subconscious is really reaching that deeper layer, where when you reach the deeper layer of the brain, it starts to say, oh, here, we can process this now. This is how we're going to retrain the brain. So I give an example of retraining the brain is getting out in nature. Unplugging and just going for a walk in the woods really has this ability to create a positive mindset, because it lets go of anxiety. I mean, being around, hearing the crunch of a leaf underneath your foot, or the songs of a bird, those are all ways that we can really clear our head so that we can tap into the subconscious mind. But our subconscious mind is really operating when you're in a meditative state. And so, how potters are really calm, because they're working with the clay on a potter's wheel.
So it's funny that you say that, because my partner's family they're potters.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
are they really calm?
It's very soothing. And when we talk to people, they're always asking us if we are offering pottery classes, and we don't do it yet. But the reason behind it is exactly because you are with that clay, you are with that motion, you are focused, you are in that state.
Right.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. So continue.
It's like a meditative movement, and it really gets you out of that conscious mind. And there are a lot of activities you can do like that. Some people will play music and strum on their guitar. Other people will go for a run and get that endorphin high, and meditate around next to a river or some quiet space. I mean, being able to tap into subconscious mind. Also, a really good time frame to tap into the subconscious mind is right before bed. So right before sleep, if you go to bed saying, oh gosh, tomorrow is going to be the worst day, I have everything back to back, and you already feel overwhelmed. So you can guarantee your sleep will be restless. The worry is just going to escalate. You'll probably have a nightmare in your sleep. So instead, think about going to bed as, what do I want to manifest the next day? And maybe you go to sleep and say, wow, I am a really valuable friend and my words matter and people want to hear my opinion. So when you go to sleep, you're starting the process with your brain to say, people want to hear your thoughts. It's okay to speak your mind. And that is how maybe a shy child, because some shyness, you're an introvert, but some shyness is a form of anxiety. So it's a way of like teaching yourself slowly, one step at a time, of getting more courageous with your words and putting yourself out there.
It's interesting when you speak, and I'm just using this as a comparison because I recently did an interview with somebody who was a massage therapist, and she was talking about the calming effect, and she had a very soft, quieter voice. And just talking about the massage brings your stress level down.
Oh, right.
Just listening to you talk about the stress and the anxiety of what it's like, and I'm going, oh my God, like my stress level's starting to increase. Just having that conversation of how our words and the tone of voice can impact our response within our bodies.
Right, right. No, and it's also, words are really important too, is just how you talk to your friends and your family, and making sure that you're uplifting and you have words of encouragement, words of love. And sometimes we're not aware we're surrounding ourselves, our friends are cynical, or they're angry, or they're complainers, or they focus on what they don't have. And you are the company you keep. So that can often start to make you feel anxious just being around people that are gossiping. So sometimes we, especially women, will stay with people that don't necessarily bring out our best side, and they'll stay in a friendship because they don't want to hurt their feelings. But you have to recognize, like, who brings up the best in me, who makes me think positively, and who makes me want to talk about people.
And that's a great segue into my next question. For those new to the concept, how would you describe your intuition and intuitive skills? Because what we're talking about is, what are you noticing within you when you're surrounded by other people?
Right, right. Well, I think intuition is something. Here's an example, like on an elevator. We'll get on the elevator and there'll be one man on the elevator, and you get a really creepy feeling and you feel uncomfortable. A lot of people just stay on that elevator because they don't want to hurt his feelings, they don't want to profile, they don't want to upset anyone, and ride up in a really uncomfortable situation. Whereas if you're listening to your intuition and you get on an elevator alone with this man and you feel uncomfortable, get off right away. And we don't always listen to our intuition. And it's the same thing when we're in a relationship and we see a red flag about some friend and she did something mean to someone else. But she's popular and she's cute and she wants to go to lunch with me and she starts being really nice to me. And we've already seen the red flag, but we ignore it because everyone wants to belong. Everyone wants to feel part of a group. And maybe we're enamored with her lifestyle or her Instagram. So we will, against our intuition, start to hang out with this person. And then we're surprised when we're, backstabbed,
So how can we think of intuition as our subconscious mind and body trying to influence our behavior?
Right. Well, so your intuitive voice is always speaking to you. But when we're anxious, we won't hear it because anxiety is really loud and intuition is really, really soft. So you can even practice this exercise by, sitting still and closing your eyes and expressing gratitude to your body, and say to your body, I'm so grateful for how you move and get me from point A to point B. I am grateful that you help me nourish myself so I have energy and I can function properly. And always to have that really positive story with your body, and then ask your body. Just sit in stillness and trust yourself to ask the right questions and just say, where is there discomfort, or what do I need to do to help you, body? And have that conversation. And some people might say, okay, that's silly, like the body's not going to talk, but you actually will.
I call it
Exactly.
a body speak, body talk. Our
Totally.
bodies, we spend so much time
Yeah.
thinking about relationships with everybody else.
Yeah.
We need to take that pause and to get to know ourselves. What are we
Right.
feeling? What do we need? So I hear you when you
Right.
are talking about body speak, because it is
Loud.
soft
Yeah.
and
Right.
powerful.
Right. Right. And it's so important to just like the body hears you speak. And there's a great book about that too. But it's important for the body to feel your love. And when you're focused on what it doesn't look like or what's going wrong, then everything does go wrong. And everything, it's almost like it spirals
It's like the
out of control.
self-fulfilling
Right.
prophecy
It
of
is.
you either see the
Yeah.
negative or you see the positive.
Right. Right.
How do we learn to better tune into our intuition?
So there's so many ways, and everyone responds to things differently. So I like to, I practice yoga and do meditation. And for me, because I'm really active and high energy, I like walking meditations. So I'll like walk in the woods. And when I'm walking in the woods, I have a whole storyline that I'm telling myself as if it's in the present. So I'm working on a book right now about my ancestors. And so as I'm walking, I am a best-selling author. I'm watching myself at the book signing. I am watching how people respond positively. I can see the publisher picking up the phone and saying, how many copies do we print? So I go through this whole entire scenario. And one time I actually did it when I was going onto a plane, and I'm walking on the plane like, everyone should probably know I'm a best-selling author, and I'm walking on the plane. And I will never forget, I sat down in my seat, and all of a sudden this young girl came, and she was kind of hostile, and she was like, you're in my seat, you're in my seat. And I said, I'm sorry, I have the same seat. And I showed her the ticket. And then the flight attendant came back, and she looked at me and she goes, oh, you're in the wrong seat, come with me. And she put me in first class. And I was like, I literally manifested first class as the best-selling author. So, I like the walking meditations, but everyone's different. I find that people that have OCD, tapping method is really effective. And the tapping method, you can Google it, but it's really about like sending a message.
So that's the EFT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, EFT. And it really helps people calm down. There are other, transcendental meditation is another form of meditation. And that is something that you can also research to find a practitioner that can show you actually how to do transcendental meditation. That's really helpful.
So what is that? Because it's a word that people are familiar with, but I don't know that people know exactly what that is.
Right. It's a different form of meditation that will give you a phrase, kind of a meaningless phrase, really. So you might not know the meaning of the word, but the practitioner that gives you the word knows the meaning. And you will sit in silence and then repeat this word over and over. And then you'll close your eyes, and you might open your eyes again. They'll guide you initially, and then you can do it on your own. And then you close your eyes again, and you can continue to repeat this word. And your thoughts will start to meander, and you start thinking, your to-do list, and that's all natural. A lot of people are like, I can't think when I meditate, but that's the whole idea is like your thoughts are
practice.
Right, it's the practice, and thoughts will come in. And eventually you'll get to a state where you're not thinking of any words, and you may have stopped even saying the word, and you're in this state of semi-consciousness, like you're really tapped into the subconscious world. And it's really, so in other words, you'll do it for like 30 minutes. And if somebody asks you, how long do you think that was? You'll feel like 5.
Right.
So that's how you know when yogis, when I teach teens and they finally get how it feels to meditate, they'll say, oh, that felt like it was like 2 minutes. And I'll say, we did that for 30 minutes. And they're like, wow. And that's how you know that you are actually starting the process of learning how to meditate. But sometimes it's so simple that people don't even practice it. They're just like, I don't have time, or they make excuses. But in the morning is a really good time. Like, just have a glass of water with lemon, and then, just find a quiet space to just practice it. And those are there are lots of different methods of meditation, but I think for people, a lot of, I find teens are better at meditating outside than in a studio. So you just have to know who you are. And when I first tried yoga and meditation, I walked out of the class. I thought, this is for the birds. Like, are they kidding?
Because you're active and it's slow.
Right.
How do you bring yourself down?
Yeah. So I really was like, why do people want to be still? I mean, I was the bouncy kid that was like bouncing on my bed doing backflips. So, I need yoga for a totally different reason than other people. I am flexible and strong. So I needed it to learn how to slow down. So
it has its purpose, and it has a different purpose for everybody, as you just shared, that every modality has a different purpose for each individual, and finding that connection of what's important to you is what will make that practice be something that you want to go back to.
Right, right.
Is intuition something that we need to learn to trust?
Absolutely. Because your intuition is going to save you. I mean, it really is going to save you. And you can even practice it with a friend and just say, or even a stranger that you meet, like, just, have one person think of a color and then see if you can guess what color they're thinking. And, people might be like, well, that's like psychic. No, it's not. It's like just trusting your intuition. Because once I started trusting my intuition, wow, did it really develop. And then I used to actually hold back what I might say to someone. And then I thought, no, I'm going to trust my intuition to mention this book I just read. And sure enough, that person really needed to read that book that I just read. And I had no idea. But, sometimes if you really just, stop overthinking, should I say this? Should I not say this? And trust yourself, it's amazing how much it will help you.
So we have been taught to have so many filters to keep ourselves in safety. And trusting our intuition and putting it out there is a risk,
right?
Until it becomes the normal,
right?
So it's practice,
right? No, absolutely.
So talking about self-talk, are we talking to our conscious mind or our subconscious mind, or both?
Well, here's an example of self-talk. So we are talking, self-talk is our subconscious.
And we're constantly having dialogue.
And we're constantly having dialogue. And honestly, if we were so nice to our friends and we bend over backwards and we
anything
help
they need,
them, right? And we're such a jerk to ourselves. And so if you took that voice inside your head and pulled it out and sat down next to it at a party, you would be like, I'm unloading her, right? You would be like running from that voice.
I need to do something else. Like, excuse me, I need to leave now.
I don't think people realize, like, that inner voice is so critical to your happiness.
I love that example, because we talk about it on the light level of, would you say that to your friend? But when you just literally took you out of your head and put her next to you, I could just visually see that and say, you know what? We need to move on.
Right. And one girl came up to me and she said, Mary Kaye, I'm having this problem. Every guy I go out with, it ends at 3 months. Like, I don't understand why every relationship ends at 3 months. What am I doing wrong? I mean, they always go to some cuter, skinnier girl. And I said, no. Has nothing to do with some cuter, skinnier girl. It's your self-talk right there. You're going into every relationship saying, it's going to end in 3 months. It's going to end in 3 months. It's like a replay in your brain, and it's manifesting exactly what that mind is telling you. And sure enough, as soon as she stopped, she goes, okay, I'm going to practice it. She was in a relationship for long term, and she was like, it was as simple as just turning off that record, you know?
The mind is so powerful.
It really is.
On that same topic, how does our negative self-talk harm our wellness?
So negative self-talk harms in such a dysfunctional way that I actually think this is an epidemic in America. And what it does is it breeds illness, and it starts to, and then when you feel sick and you weaken your immune system, then that misfires the endocrine system, and that misfires, your kidneys, and your liver can't detox fast enough. And so all of a sudden, we've already been bombarded with other toxins in the world. So now we're adding another layer. And I just feel like, physical health is directly related to mental health. I literally say all the time, I'm never sick. I'm never sick. I'm never sick. I've never missed a day. And it's just funny because I say that often, and I think it really does have a lot to do with every interaction I have. I always am looking to connect with people, and I'm always, even if I'm feeling down, I try to remind myself, what am I grateful for? Oh, right, I have an ability to connect with anyone. So I try to remind myself, and I actually by my bed have a gratitude journal where every morning I wake up and I remind myself exactly what I'm grateful for, and I try to add something to it every day. And I think that is really powerful habit for people to get into, because because one of the things I'm grateful for is always feeling amazing and healthy and strong. And so we can tell ourselves that we are healthy and strong, or we can say, I don't feel well. So it is a choice, but a lot of people think, oh, easy for you to say. But it's none of this is easy.
And everything, I mean, that is the purpose of the show.
Right.
Is that every aspect of our health, our occupation, our spirituality, our emotional, intellectual, physical, one shift in one of those things can negatively or positively impact your wellness.
Right.
And when we do have struggles, how do we learn to live well? We can have an illness, and how do we still learn to live with that, to be able to live positively, live well, and to be able to engage in what we can engage in? And it all comes back to our mindset.
Well, and an example of just like living well, like you're saying, is it's an example of like we have two people, and let's say they both have a serious diagnosis of an illness. Well, the person A might say, like Susie, she might say, oh, okay, well, I have this diagnosis of cancer or whatever it is. I'm going to go for a walk in the woods. And I'm going to, knowledge is power. I'm going to go to a workshop and see what I can learn about natural healing. And I'm going to start taking the steps so that I can maybe start changing the water I'm drinking, or getting rid of sugar, or whatever it is. What can I learn from people who have healed from this, and be proactive about it? And how can I surround myself by a support group of people who are really positive, versus person B, who starts to say, oh, why does this always happen to me? I can't believe, like, I am sick. I'm going to die. I don't want to go through this. And now they're telling me I have to do chemo and I have to do all these horrible things, and the end is near. And they focus on everything that's going to go wrong.
The downward spiral versus the upward trajectory.
Right. And so person A, she goes to take an Epsom salt bath. She goes to get a lymphatic massage. And, those things like cost money, but some things don't. And there's a lot of things that we can do that just mentally can get us in the right headspace. And it's amazing. I mean, there's a great documentary called Heal that everyone should really listen to, because it's about how the mind heals your body. And there is a reason why people have stage 5 cancer, the tumor disappears. Everyone's heard those stories, but it's all about mindset. It was never about what the doctors did, and it was always about what their mind was able to accomplish.
And picking and choosing what it is that's going to help you live your best life in whatever state that you are in, that we have the choice to go to either column A or column B.
Right, right.
And it makes a difference. What about rumination and its role in anxiety and depression?
Well, it goes back to rumination. That is like the replaying of a phrase over and over. So if you are always saying, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, you need to wake up in the morning, every morning, and look in the mirror. And in a mirror, you can really see yourself. And talk to yourself as if you are the lover you want in your life, and say, I love you. You're so beautiful. You're so strong and amazing and talented. And every morning, keep talking to that person, everything you want to hear from this lover. And repeat it over and over. And you can retrain the brain from any rumination that has been unhelpful. And the unhelpful rumination is telling you a story that you start to believe. Everyone starts to believe the ruminating thoughts. And that's why it's really powerful to recognize, what are those thoughts? And that's the first way to heal your thoughts, is just say, oh, wow, I had no idea. Now I'm aware. You're right. I do say I'm fat all the time.
And we're using fat as a descriptor, not as just as a simple adjective, and trying to not give it the meaning that we often hear, that fat and thin are just simply adjectives that we are using, and that it's not used in a discriminatory fashion.
Right. And too many people overuse that in self-talk. And it would be, you really need to take the steps to eliminate that word from your vocabulary.
Or the connotation that it is a negative word.
Right, absolutely.
What can one do to quiet the mind and break from such intrusive and negative thoughts?
Well, it goes back to being able to detach and unplug. And a lot of that has to do with social media. The social media is a bombardment of ruminating thoughts, where you're given the message that you don't measure up, you don't look like her. And we start to think that, oh, if I look like her, or if I had his body, that I will be happy. And so we start to attach our happiness to external things when it's really inside. It's that subconscious. Like, you have all the answers, but we don't trust that because we stop trusting our intuition because the anxiety's taken off. So it goes back to really getting down to that deeper level of alone time. And when I was young, I wanted to be surrounded by people, and I wanted to be busy, and I thought that was happiness, and I didn't value alone time. That's why I walked out of the yoga class, because I thought, like, this is too quiet for me. And it's exactly what I needed. So sometimes we're not aware until we meet someone that is really calm. And I went back to yoga and meditation because I met someone who I knew before, and she was really depressed and kind of sluggish, and all of a sudden she had all this energy and she was happier. And I said, what are you doing? What are you on?
Like, what's the magic?
What happened? And she goes, oh, I just started doing yoga. And I was like, no, because I went to a yoga class once. And she said, yeah. So that's how I got involved. I decided to
give it another try.
Right. And I gave it another try, and we started doing yoga in her living room. And then I was like, we have to bring this to the world. So we opened the first yoga studio in our town, and it took off. So I just think that people really put so much pressure on themselves, and it's really just stepping back and going back to nature.
When you tune out the noise and you just are settling with yourself, you don't have the comparison, you don't have the he says, she says, or he has or she has. It becomes very simplistic. And when you quiet that noise, the stress, the rumination starts to dissipate.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're having a panic attack, I always say, just do the box breath. Just one breath at a time. Like, don't feel like it's going to spiral out of control. This is so embarrassing. Just take a deep breath. Like,
So for people who don't know, can you share what the box breath is?
Yeah, the box breath is something like even the Navy SEALs do right before combat or right before they're going into
It's
stressful,
a powerful exercise.
Right, in a dangerous environment. You just inhale for 5 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold the breath for 5 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then hold the breath for 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you just repeat that over and over. And just breathing with that pattern, when you count, it helps you not think of thoughts. So that's the whole...
It helps quiet the noise,
Right.
and it relaxes your system.
Right. So breathing is everything.
And talking about meditation, how does it relate to wellness and self-talk and to the conscious and subconscious mind? It's a loaded question.
I know.
It's a lot of information that I just asked. Where does that all land?
Well, so how does it relate to, well, I have actually an example I'll show you. I just want you to see like how powerful the mind is.
Okay.
And because that is really the answer to this question. The mind is so powerful that if you can quiet it, you're going to feel this deep sense of peace. You're going to feel like when you see somebody that maybe is smarter than you or has a cuter dress on or whatever it is, you're not going to feel this envy or this comparison. You're just going to feel at peace with who you are. And that's what it goes back to. This is using this, I'm just taking a necklace off with a pendant on it because it'll help you see how your mind can control everything. So
okay.
She's never done this before for our audience.
For the magic trick.
And this is not a magic pendant. It's just a random necklace. You can do it at home. So I want you to hold this at the very top. And I want you to start with saying, I just assume it works, okay? Assume what we're going to do works.
So say it out loud.
No, you can say it to yourself. And what you're going to do is you're going to ask this pendant. So she's not going to move her hand at all. And I want you to just ask the pendant to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with your mind. Let's see. Just keep thinking the same thought over and over. So it's starting to move back and forth. So she's never done this before, so it's... Don't overthink it. There it goes. So it's going back and forth, back and forth. Give it some more. Yeah. And she's not moving her hand. So it's went back and forth. Now I want you to ask it to make it a circle. Ask it to make a circle. Big circle. See, it's starting to kind of move around in a circle. I don't know if it's easy for our audience to see this, but... And then ask it to reverse direction. See if it'll reverse direction. And it stops. See how it kind of stops, and now it'll start to reverse direction. Reverse direction, reverse direction. Yeah, there it goes. And goes all the way opposite way. So I've been doing this for years. So mine goes in huge circles, but it's just like, it's a skill you develop.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Because if somebody told me I would be, like not my thing, are you kidding me?
Right. I know.
Goes against everything that I know to be true.
Right.
And that was really very interesting.
Right, and you should try it at home. Like, just try it. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really amazing how powerful. Once you do that, like, are you really going to tell yourself you suck at math? Are you really going to say, like,
I mean, my partner, who is a scientist, will look at this.
Yes,
will look at this segment
totally.
And really be like, "Are you kidding me?"
But here's the thing: energy is thoughts, and this is scientific.
Yes.
So we're all energetic beings. Everything's energy. So the way I like to describe it to people is, imagine that everything you think I can hear. So would you change your thoughts if I could hear everything, right?
Of course.
So that's so I tell girls, like, when you walk into a room, imagine everyone can hear your thoughts. Are you really going to walk in that room and be like, oh, her again, right? No, you're going to walk in your room and be like, oh,
I'm so
Maybe
excited.
today's going to be a better day for her. Like, this is going to be exciting, right? So you can change everything. So just thoughts are energy. So change your thoughts and see how people respond to you differently. So I had a neighbor once that used to get in fights with all the neighbors, and she was just a really kind of angry person. And, you know, she maybe it was her life, whatever happened to her, I don't know. But I tried to do an exercise. So I said, you know, she would never talk to me. She usually called like the environmental police on me or whoever. And I decided to wake up every morning and send a blessing. And this went on for months. And every morning I send a blessing to her. And then I visualized hugging her. And then every night I would send another blessing and visualize hugging her.
What is there's the meditation.
Right. That's the meditation. So, honest to God, after 1 week, she came out of her house, had never said a word to me in months, and said, "Oh, hi, how do you like your new car?" Like, made conversation. This was unheard of. Like, people in the neighborhood were like, "She talked to you?" So,
I mean, she's watching this now.
Right. Oh, gosh. Well, you know what? Look what happened. Yeah. I mean, great stuff came out of that.
Right.
And it was so simple to do.
There's no failure in thinking positive, nurturing, loving, kind thoughts. There's only something to gain.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and this was years ago, but like, you know, it just, when you have an interaction like that, and then they're like, oh, I can trust her. You know, she's not what I thought, or, you know, people make these judgments.
Right.
Just
we have no idea what goes on behind closed doors, what's happening. You know, when we have an open mind, when we have a growth mindset, we come across as more engaging and more accepting, which hopefully will have that positive effect on the person in which we are engaging in.
Right, absolutely.
What meditation techniques would you recommend for beginners to promote relaxation and mindfulness?
Well, what I think is great is practicing with Yoga Nidra scripts. So you can go on YouTube or get on, like The Good Guys has these YouTube meditation scripts that you can play at night before you go to bed. That also really helps with like your sleep and mental health, wellness. It really talks you into a deeper state of rest and relaxation. Really helps clear the mind of all the chaos, junk in it. And you think of the brain as a muscle. Like, we need to work the muscle. And the way you work that muscle is meditation. You have to clear it out. It's like wiping the slate clean. And what it does is it actually makes you be more creative. It makes you focus. It helps you believe anything's possible. But if we let all the thoughts pile up and they keep spinning out of control, then we're not creative. We can't hear our intuition. It just, we feel sick. We feel useless. It just has the exact opposite
It's like
effect.
when you're overloaded, you don't have the capacity to take in one more thing.
Right.
And this practice helps you kind of
Right.
filter through what you do need and gets rid of all that extra noise that is always reverberating in so many of our heads.
Right. And sometimes I think it's easier for people new to hear someone talking them through it, so they're not trying to do it on their own. And then you start to see, oh wow, I do feel better, or I fell asleep to that. And you know, you can put on like headphones. Like, I'm kind of against the ear pods and phones, like all that electronical stuff. It does some damage. So you should always have it on airplane mode. You should not be charging computers or anything near you when you sleep. That can really disrupt all your biorhythms and create more anxiety. So you set yourself up for success and get that out of your sleeping space so that you can really get a really deep, restful night sleep.
Yeah, one of my favorite ways to fall asleep is, we live in the woods. And, you know, this season, like, the windows are open. You can hear the frogs. You can hear all the nature.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, we'll have somebody who comes and visit, and they'll be like, it's so noisy. How do you sleep with that? And I'm like thinking, are you kidding? Like, they're used to like city noise.
Oh, wow.
That's their part of their rhythm.
Honking.
And I find it horrible. And we love the nature. That is so calming and soothing, and we sleep with the windows open. Like we don't turn the air conditioning on unless we are desperate.
Right.
So that we can have that soothing effect. Why do you think so many people discount the mind-body connection when it comes to illness and healing?
Well, a lot of people don't trust it because they think they've tried it and it didn't work.
Once.
Right. So they try it once and they're like, oh, that didn't work for me. I tried to be positive and it didn't work.
It didn't work that day.
And it's like, it's so funny because, sometimes I'll try to manifest something, but I know exactly why it doesn't work, And I think that you really have to embody that feeling of joyfulness, like accepting your situation, accepting your body and who you are and everything around you, so that you're not always wishing to be someone else and to have something new. And really creating that healthy state of mind that is just naturally at peace by being comfortable in the present. Like when we're wanting something else, we're not present.
Not at all.
We're still thinking of how can I get that? That'll make me happy. If I have that boyfriend, or if I have that car, or if I have that job.
Thing.
Right?
If I have that thing.
Right.
That magical, mystical thing.
But what if you operated like you already had that job and you're joyfully happy because you're already operating in that job now? Just imagine running that company. It'll happen. If you are really, truly embodying the emotion you will feel when you accomplish that dream.
And being in the present alleviates so much stress, tension, and anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to that rumination. How do we, when we are in that present state,
Absolutely.
the rest of that
Right.
hard stuff starts to dissipate.
And to go back to the mind-body connection, like I can tell exactly how someone thinks by the way they hold their body and practice yoga. I can tell who the overachievers are. I can tell who the worrywarts are. I can feel your neck and tell you your entire story.
Boy, I'm getting nervous sitting across from you.
No,
where do I rank?
They'll be like, the people will be like, how did you know that? It's like you're carrying it in your body, the way you walk, the way you...
Our body language has so much to say about how we are feeling, what we are doing.
Absolutely.
Looking into somebody's eyes, just feeling the stress and the tension on their neck.
Right. Right.
There's so much information to be gathered.
Right.
And that goes back to trusting your intuition by saying like, okay, here's the information that I'm gathering from you. This is what I'm seeing and feeling. And I know more often than not that I'm right.
I mean, even if you go into that interview, you really want that job. Well, don't go into it like, oh, I know that really talented guy just interviewed for it. I'm never going to get it. Like this is, he's not going to like me, whatever. Go into the interview like, wow, I'm really funny and engaging. I can't wait to meet this guy. He's going to love me. Like the mindset, he feels that energy. But if I'm worried, what happens every time we worry or we overthink and we think the worst, our neck tenses up. So usually people have...
You can see it.
Yeah, their neck tenses up and they hold their body really tight. They walk really stiff. And when you go with the flow and you just know that the universe has your back, everything's going to work out, it always works out. But if we're always expecting the worst to happen, the worst always happens. So there's a lot you can do with, just even like when you carry yourself, like I had one daughter that used to kind of shuffle when she walked, and she was like so organized, such a hard worker, but she walked like she was tired. And I'm like, you're not tired, you're high energy. Like, pick up your feet, and it changed her everything.
It changed how she felt also.
Right.
Absolutely.
It changed everything. And, sometimes we're not conscious of habits that we have that send a different message, actually.
Awareness is so powerful.
Right. And it's the first step to changing.
Oh, 100%. Based on your experience, what do you see as the status quo? If Americans were graded on their mind-body connection, how would we all do?
Oh, gosh, you don't want to know.
I think I do know.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it's a 2 because it's just an epidemic. And what hasn't helped are these reality shows.
Oh, there's...
Like, it started out with the birthday parties where they said the birthday parties where they said, you know, you can't be invited. I remember that one. I was like, what are we telling people? Like, and then it escalated to the Kardashians, and I just thought the messages we're telling people are really the opposite of what we should be hearing, probably.
Yeah, it's something that we all need to encourage ourselves to take a second look and to get rid of that mindset of I tried it once. Right. How do we come back to it takes practice? Just like learning to walk and talk, we all learn to do it. And we can have the ability to shift our thoughts from that negative to that positive in so many different ways.
Everyone can do this.
Before you tell us about this week's practice, are there any other words of wisdom that you would like to share?
Well, because I have a podcast, I interview a lot of healers and people full of wisdom. And there are two pieces of advice that they have given me. The nutritionists, when I asked the nutritionists, like, what's the one thing, if you could tell everyone what they should be doing, every single one of them said the same thing, and that was to get rid of sugar out of your life. And see, you know, you can start with like just getting rid of the cereals or one thing at a time. But that will change your mindset because it really affects your anxiety. And the other piece of advice from the healers that have lots of wisdom, when I ask all them, they all say the same thing. And that is that anytime you're frustrated with someone or angry about something or want to change how someone feels about you, send them blessings. Send them blessings and good thoughts and just hopeful messages. And that will change their energy towards you, or it'll change the situation. It really helps change the world if we all did that. I mean, they did a study of meditators that meditated for 3 months for the world, and all they meditated was to change the world so that people treated each other nicer and had really positive messages to people, and they prayed for the prisoners and the rapists and all the bad guys and the bank robbers, and literally they went back and measured the level of crime during those 3 months they meditated, and it had dropped by like 25%, like it was significant, and in some areas 30%. And so it was interesting that everything dropped across the board just from a group of like, I think there were like 100 meditators they had to practice this. There must be something to it.
So interesting. But I just kind of want to revisit the sugar thing. And just because as an intuitive eating practitioner, I am not from the all or nothing thought process. Right. And I guess I would offer it more as an experiment to see how you feel when you eliminate or take something away.
Right.
And that, you know, because often eliminating something is not sustainable.
Right.
So just kind of thinking about more from my perspective, I would just like to offer it as an experiment to see how you feel, what changes you make. Right. And is that something that you want to practice, or is that something that you can notice when it's getting to be too much and what the balance is?
Right. Well, that's a good point, because sugar, because I love sugar, or I love sugar. So I have really made headway, and a lot of people thought, oh, she loves baking cookies and brownies, so you can have good luck with her. But I started slowly, just one step. Like I decided, like, get rid of the Yoplait. Like, this is years ago, and I thought I could never get rid of that, and I just did, and it was like so much easier than I thought. And then I added another thing, and I got rid of that, and what I noticed is I never got headaches anymore. And then all of a sudden I felt like more energetic at 4 when I usually wanted to
Right. So
fall
noticing,
asleep.
you know, what can you bring in? What are you shifting?
Right.
And how does it work for you?
Right. Just start to see if it makes a difference for you. You might not, your sugar intake might be so minimal. And of course, there are good sugars and bad sugars.
Right.
So
that's
fruit is a really great sugar for you.
So that's the connotation is that, you know, everybody's body reacts to different things, and there's all different types of sugars, and and just, you know, just because I come from as a past former dieter and somebody with disordered eating patterns, that the all or nothing can get very challenging.
Right,
And I
right,
just want to bring
absolutely.
that to attention.
I
So-
still eat cookies.
There you go. Okay.
I mean, just so you know, I'm
okay.
not some health nut. I mean, I'll never forget when I got my first book published and I was doing some crazy thing. I'm not even going to tell you. And the publishers and the editor were like, "You don't act like a yoga teacher." And I'm like, "Really?" You know, so
Lots of spunk.
Yeah.
So tell me, what healthy practice in just a few sentences could you share with us today?
Well, I think everyone should try to introduce yoga into your life. So many people think, oh, I'm not flexible, so I shouldn't do yoga. Well, that's the reason to do yoga, right?
Yes, it's on my list.
I know. I mean, my son is one of the most inflexible people I know. So he needs it for that reason. He doesn't need it for the mind peace because he's a really peaceful person. But everyone needs it for a different reason. So, let go of the judgment and the attachments that it's something it's not. Because everybody I've ever taught yoga to, I always ask them, is that what you expected it to be? And they were like, no.
Just try it.
Right.
Just try it. More than once. Because sometimes you need to find the right instructor, the right environment.
Right.
Give it a chance.
And with everything in life, just add something new. Sometimes we get in habits. And,
get rid of the rut.
Right. And just try something new. Try taking an art class and see if it makes you feel calmer. And introduce yourself to things that you think, oh, well, I'm not an artist. Like, what am I thinking doing that? You don't have to be. I mean, we get to a point where we start comparing ourselves to other people and say, we're this and we're not this. And it's all like fabrications in our mind that we start to believe. So, just know that these old thought patterns that you thought were true were really figments of your imagination. So
where did they come from?
Right.
Yeah.
And just wipe the slate clean and just try it.
Perfect. So thank you so much for all your words of wisdom. Today we explored the idea that health and wellness begin in the mind. We looked at how intuition, self-talk, meditation, and tapping in to the subconscious can positively influence our overall well-being. If you would like to continue the conversation, please join me for my monthly office hours, curated conversations, and I always would like to hear about what's going on in your world and what you would like to see on our show. So please join me next time on Getting Healthy Without Rules.